So you get married and you start having a bunch of sex, and then you end up find out your wife's pregnant, so you're going to be a father. And for me, I was kind of happy that we were married for almost 2 years before we actually, conceived. And I was kind of happy because the threshold of the thought of how's my life going to look? How are my finances going to look? How is this kid going to live with me as a father? And, isn't that kind of the things that we always come into is the unknown. So I remember the first time I bought a house, I didn't sleep that whole night because I was like, oh my God, I got this $500 monthly payment, that I've got to manage. And I was like, how am I going to do it? But now you take kids into the mix and it's the exact same magnitude by 10. And, but we had our first kid and it was all right. He lived, and then we had another kid. And every time we had another kid, it got easier and easier. But now that my kids go from 12 to 4, and but now there's a different element. It's relationship with them. So, when I first started out as a parent, I was very protective. I was very cautious. I was very punishment minded also, because it was kind of like in this mind that they had to live a certain way. And so I kind of made sure that they lived that way. And I was challenged the other day by, what if we called our kids great? What if we said that they're the best of the best, they're the cream of the crop, they're the most educated, the most mindful, the most the smartest kids ever? What if every time we saw them, we're like, Sam the Great? That's my son's name. And so we call him Samo. But what if every time I call him Sam the Great, what would it do for his mindset? And to think about how I had to shift from kind of this protective parent of morality of what you should do with your life to, what if Sam the Great became so great that he was the king of his own world, that he made the rules and regulations and the adjustments for the next step, the next level of life? And how would I look for me to be a part of it, to be able to help his course? As a river flows, so shall he. And, even at 12 years old, he's got a way he wants to do things. Now, it's not necessarily my way, and it might not be my wife's way, but the way that he wants to do things, I need to almost honor and allow him to either accept the greatness that comes with the way that he does things or is chosen to do things, or be mindful if he fails, be ready to help him out to see where he can make some adjustments and, succeed. For me, I think about, where am I succeeding? Well, where I'm succeeding has usually come after where I've failed greatly. I've failed greatly in the stock market. I've failed greatly with my marriage. I've failed greatly with my business. I've failed greatly with relationships. But on the other side of that, my business is doing twice as better as it was 3 years ago. Stock market's doing twice as better than it was. My marriage is 10 times better. My relationships. And so my failures have been able to help me develop my successes today. And so same thing with being a parent to our kids, is how can we allow them to be great on their own, even if it doesn't look like how we might do something. Like if it was homework, right? So we're stay at home because of the coronavirus. And so, he wants to do homework a certain way. And so what am I to say, hey, you got to wake up at 8 o'clock and you got to start and you got to do this for an hour and then you can take a 10-minute break and then you got to come back and then you got to do it. And for me to create a plan for him to have to do all of these things because I'm an early person. Well, if he doesn't get up till 12 o'clock, is that still acceptable? What if he gets his homework done, between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock at night? Is that still acceptable? How does that work for him? Does it hurt me? Does it harm me? Does it harm him to do his homework from 8 to 12? Even maybe to do it with a friend or stuff like that. And so what is it that we're keeping our kids from doing is kind of the question, right? We're around our kids more now because of coronavirus and stuff like that. And so kind of forced to be in the house and everything's aggravating and the kids are nagging at each other and they're slamming doors and they're all watching YouTube and doing their own thing. And we're trying to watch the news or do whatever we need to do. And it seems like the tension has amplified. But you know what I've also noticed is when I've yielded even my ways of wanting to watch something, do something, say something, be let's all clean the house. Let's organize this. Everybody needs to shut up. And I was like, what do you guys want to do? And we played Monopoly cards the other night, and it was a lot of fun. And, we've playing for hours now. And I realized that this is a whole nother development of my relationship with the kids, to be able to see and interact with them on playing games and what do they think, and then trying to teach them, well, what if you did this? How have you applied this to your life? And then to see them have the revelation when they win because they did something that you had suggested to them. And so then you're affirming that, you know something and you can help them in situations, and then they experience that and apply it and they're getting success. Kids are so great and they need us to help express that greatness in them. I believe that basically all men are equal. All women are equal. I believe women and men are equal. Not just all women are equal and equal, women, but men and equal. Everybody's equal. And so same thing when I talk to my daughters, am I treating them like an equal of me? And I got to consider that. Like if I put such a demand on them of what they should do morality wise, but then I am immoral. What if I drink a little too much? What if I smoke a little bit too much? What if I cuss a little too much? What if I get angry a little bit too much? Like, who's the guard of me? And I think that was kind of the, oh my gosh, moment was, I'm the person who deals with me. Why can't I help my kids realize that they're going to be the person that deals with them, right? So now I know there's a little bit of gray area in that because we're talking about marriage now what? And with marriage now what? You have a spouse, which basically you're a partner with that person and you need to be able to consider what's going on with them. But just because you have a conversation with your wife about how much you should drink or not drink, or what you should eat or not eat, should you diet, should you exercise, should you do this, should you do that, you still, even though you might agree in a conversation, might fall short because you are your own ruler and reigner. You are your own king of your dominion, of your body, of what you're doing and how you're doing things. And I thought, why aren't we teaching our kids how to be that king or queen in their own body, to have dominion and think about what their body's doing? Why are they doing the things with their body? Why are they thinking the way that they're thinking? How can we get them to have the greatest results in everything they do? And it's going to start with the process of allowing them to judge the thoughts before they actually apply them. Where are they conceiving these ideas from? A lot of times it's on TikTok. So, if you watch TikTok, you watch the same exact dance moves, the same exact things. And so it's interesting because mankind repeats mankind. Every once in a while you have somebody great do something different, but then what happens? Everybody starts repeating that. It's kind of like, with the 4-minute mile. Nobody broke it, and then once they broke it, everybody started breaking it. Now you got high schoolers, middle schoolers, breaking the 4-minute mile. Why? Because somebody else did it. And, where are your kids getting the concepts for them that they're living out and mimicking, or are they starting things? Are we putting our kids down in such a way that they can't think creatively about what they want to do, or they feel stupid or embarrassed or shamed because they did something and it was dorky? But what about the next thing that they do? Could it be great, but because they thought the last thing was dorky because we made fun of them, or, somebody else made fun of them, that they resist feeling that way again, and they don't do it? What if we always can applaud our kids to the greatness of who they are? And I say that about you. I say that about, your wife. Your wife is fantastic. She is enough. She is more than enough. She is everything that you've ever wished, wanted, and desired. But have you pulled out the right attributes of her? Have you pulled out the right characteristics? Does she feel comfortable enough with you to basically live with you in the greatness that she is to be? Or have we put them down? You know, have we put our wives down where we said, oh, you're stupid. I can't believe you didn't do this. I can't believe you didn't balance the checkbook. I can't believe that you pulled the gas cap out of the car as you were driving down the road. Or, are we embarrassing our wives so that they don't feel comfortable to be the great queens that they are created to be? With business, are we patting them on the back and giving them the finances and giving them the encouragement and giving them the room to be able to do those things? And for your husbands, are you doing that also? Are you speaking to the king inside your husband so that he can do that? Or are we trying to put morality on your husband of saying, well, if you just accomplish this, then you're good enough? But what about if there's something inside of him that can be even better than what we know of? And, what about your kids? Is there something so great inside your kids? Right now we've got all these scientists and we've got all these people doing all of these great things to try to get rid of this virus. Well, what was it in those kids that now are adults, that now are scientists who are helping the nation? What about the CEOs? They were once kids. What experiences did they have that basically allotted them to be CEOs of these huge companies and shift? I mean, Ford went from making cars to making ventilators. For that CEO to have that mind of, hey, can we put this on the back burner for now, our bread and butter of what we make for business? How can we pull out a whole new business and help out the country, help out the economy? That is mind-blowing that somebody can make that kind of shift so quickly. So my thing is, what experiences did they have with their parents? Did they have with people? Did they have where basically that idea can come to the forefront, not be embarrassed, and say, boom, here we are. How do we do it? And, like think tanks. What if we were producing think tanks in our families at the dinner table every night? When have you asked your kid, what do you think about this? What do you think the country should do? What do you think this should happen? Like the same thing with my kid. The teacher says, hey, your son needs to do this work. I say, all right, here's your parameters. Here's your guidelines. What do you think you should do? How do you think you should do it? Do you think you should do it at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay until you get everything done and then you can play video games? Or should you sleep in till 12 o'clock, play video games for 6 hours, and then at night do it with your friends? What are you producing by the words you're saying in your kids? And that's my question today is the greatness that our kids are, can they be even better? I love spending time with kids, but, there's a difference between the idea of spending time with the kids and going outside and throwing the football or stuff like that versus the experience of sitting down, playing a game, doing some artwork or stuff like that. One of my daughters, she loves artwork. She has art all over her walls. She says she wants to be an art teacher, and we watch YouTube videos, and on those YouTube videos, they were doing this poor art type stuff. And she's like, oh, I love that. I want to do that. Well, I wanted her to have that experience. And that's my thing is she didn't know what it was going to experience. The paint getting on her hand, the paint getting on the floor, paint getting on the clothes, what actually pictures she would create with her mind, with the colors, the way she holds it, angles it, the way that it settles out and makes this beautiful picture. And she would have never known that if I didn't spend the money and create a studio, basically putting paper down everywhere, plastic, and table and getting everything set up, waiting for the shipment, getting different kinds of paints and doing all of this stuff with her to produce this idea. It was a lot of effort to produce this idea that she saw from a very short video, So you almost see these YouTube videos and you don't realize what goes in the production behind it. But here's the greatest thing is you don't know what the result would be if you experience that with your kid. You don't know what that would do for your kid forever if you experience by taking the time, spending the money, and allowing them to test, to see, to fail, to do it again. One of my daughters, we were doing it, and she was wanting to do the balloons, and get like a texture on top of the paint. And she was getting frustrated because she wasn't getting the results that she wanted. I says, that's okay. So then I pulled out another canvas. I said, try again. Let's do something different. And that's what I'm trying to say is are we making opportunities for our kids to have opportunities? Or are we pigeonholing them into act like this, think like this, say like that? Well, hopefully your church or hopefully your school will, have an art class and they'll do it for you. But see, even if my kid had that experience at the art class, she always remembers what it was like with the art teacher, not with me. Not that my dad loved me enough that he would spend the money, that he would spend the time, that he would do all of this to create this experience within me. And now she knows. So now she knows two things. She knows what it's like to have her dad love her and to have that experience with her. And then also she knows what it was like to have that experience. Versus she would know what it was like for that art teacher to help her. And I think a lot of times we yield so much to other people. We're like, oh, well, that's their gifting. That's their teaching. Well, the school should do that. They should do this. And my question is, even if you fail, aren't you the one who should do it? Aren't you the one who would like to say about sex the first time your kid hears sex? It's from you because it's in a great intimate relationship with you and your wife. It's in a wholesome thing. It's not, some joke that they heard and they don't even understand the joke, but it was said in the bathroom or, wouldn't you want to be the first one? Because then you all of a sudden you are the author and authority of that subject. So when I bring paint to the table, she thinks I'm a paint teacher because basically I'm doing all of this paint stuff that she saw the professionals do on YouTube. Automatically, from the experience standpoint, I'm at the top of the top with her because I did what she wanted to do. I allowed the creative genius in her to say, I want to do that, and gave it to her. And, a lot of times we let other people do that, and that's fine and it's good. But I'm stretching you to say, could there be more? Could there be more with your relationship? Could there be more that your kids could experience in relationship with you? I really think even the success of me having a podcast, having my business and trading and learning and doing stuff, I don't feel like I've ever accomplished any amount of learning. So I'm not trying to tell you the ABCs of marriage, the ABCs of raising kids, because to me, the ABCs are not the ABCs. They are the ABCs, but then they go into D, E, F, G, and then maybe you sit on G for a while, and then they go. And that's what I'm trying to say is there's always a little more to everything. There's a little bit more to your relationship with your kids that is possible. You just have to go to another level. And I think about, for my mom, she would, if I were to say something, I'd be like, oh, it'd be great to learn what the stock market, how to trade the stock market. And then, she'd give me or send me something or, send me an article or do this or do that. Like anytime I would see something like, oh man, it'd be cool to have a rocket, and then she'd give me like this 1, 2, 3s on how to build a rocket or how to launch a rocket or, she was always very encouraging about anything that I wanted to do. And so I try lots of things. I've had over 30 businesses, and if you want to call them startups, let's just call them startups. Because basically I've started it up and I'm like, ooh, let me see and do this and spend money, thousands of dollars sometimes on things, $10, $20, $30,000 on things. And then they just fall short. And is it okay for those things to fall short and say, oh, that was stupid that you did that? But here's the thing. What have I learned out of that I could apply to the next thing that make me $1 million a year after that? Was it a waste because I lost $30,000? But the experience that I got, was it something that I could utilize in another business? And for the most part, yes. Information is so great. They talk about, Trump said the other day, he says, the information that we have, the technology that we have right now within 1 year is going to be 100% obsolete. So the thing that actually keeps our society together, our phones, the network, everything, is going to be extinct within a year because of new things coming. And what about it for the next 10 years? What is it going to look like for your kids? Are your kids going to be part of that revolution that's going to bring new technology to the forefront, new healing to the forefront, new cars, Well, the people who worked on, autonomous cars right now are the people who were kids just 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And that's what I'm trying to say is the future of your kids is going to depend on what we create now for them. And are you asking them, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Are you able to basically allow them to do and say something completely different than what you believe is 100% right? And that's my challenge is, when is the greatness of what our kids think going to be worth us yielding our own thoughts to allowing them to step up? It's a real challenge to think about because we're older. We have more experiences. But do they see the world that we live in differently? I challenge you this. Do you see, when you were coming up, the world differently than your parents did, right? So a lot of us, our parents were, 40s and 50s babies, and so maybe 60s and 70s babies, maybe your parents went to Woodstock or, maybe I guess 70s would be about the hit on your parents, but maybe 80s. But my question is do you see things differently than your parents did? And if the answer is yes, then don't you think your kids see differently than what you do? And of course the answer is yes. So how do you help them see that difference as a good thing? How can we let their difference be the greatness that leads our country? How can we let their difference be the greatness that makes their marriage better than our marriage? How can we let their difference be applied to raising kids, their kids, and it be amazing? Wouldn't you want your kids to be better parents than you are? Don't you want to be better parents than what your parents were? Of course. And I think sometimes it's a little bit of embarrassment to say, like, would you go to your mother and say, my goal in accomplishing these things is that I become a better parent than you. It's like slap in the face, Mom, I want to be a better parent than you. But don't we really want our kids to be better parents than us? The concept, I remember I used to be spanked a lot, and I started spanking my kids when, the first parenting, I was a spanker. I'm not a spanker anymore. I'm a talker, because spanking to me did not get to the root of the problem of the why. And then I also had the challenge, why am I spanking? Was it based on something that I drew a line in the sand? And is that line in the sand worth the spanking? Could I change the line? Could I remove the line altogether myself? Because I'm the one who placed that law, that thing in the line of the sand, is to say, well, you can't do this. But what if they see a possibility where they can, and it's a good thing? What if they stretch our minds? And that's the challenge. Are you neutral enough in your thinking that you're governed by a filter of you only want the best for your kid, no matter if you don't know that that's the best thing for your kid? What if your kid thinks that's the best thing for them? And we're like, no. Well, then who's going to help govern their thoughts when they're 20, 30, 40? Are you still going to be saying yes and no to what they should do or could do when they're 35 years old? Do you want them to call everything and say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, what do you think I should do in this scenario? Or do you want them to be able to govern their thoughts themselves and say, well, if I did X, Y, Z, I might get these results. If I did this, I might get these results. If I did this, I might get different results. If I did this, and then them deciding based on the information that they have discovered within themselves would be able to say, I'm going to do this with all confidence, boldness, and then see where that takes them. And yes, they might fail, but guess what? If we teach them properly, they'll take those failures, change them, and make them into successes. You know, I had this concept where basically I wanted to force myself to spend more time with the kids. And I've got 4 kids, and so it was $20 a week. I was going to give $20 a week to each kid. And basically I did it as like a challenge. And I said, if I don't spend time with you 1 hour a week, then I am going to give you $20. Well, that was wrong, because then basically all they wanted was the $20 every week. They didn't want to spend time with Dad. And so I changed it, and I said, I don't let them know that anymore. I told them, that's gone, you know. And so now I'm looking to spend $100 a month on the kids, and what is that going to look like, you know? And that's my challenge to you is don't tell your kids you're doing something for them, but man, you got to start doing something for them. You got to start yielding yourself to paint, to football, to getting a basketball, getting a goal, getting outside, getting a boat. What does it look like for your kid to feel totally in awe with the possibilities of life in the world? Is it a boat? Is it a new fishing rod? What can you do to create experiences, new thoughts and looks at the world that your kids have never seen before? Are we waiting for YouTube to teach our kids what it looks like to fill up a pool full of gummies, and we see all this happening, trending all the time, and then we never buy 2 tons of gummies and fill up a pool? I mean, have you ever watched the way that your kids admire other kids, and then we don't make the effort for them to experience those great experiences? It's not like, keeping up with the Joneses, it's almost like keeping up with YouTube now. I'm not asking you necessarily to keep up with all the fattest trends of, YouTube, but I am saying this. If you're finding that your kid is just in awe about something, don't you think it's worth spending a little bit of money to let them experience that awe themselves? When are we going to value our kids? We have that, lazy boy recliner. We have all the foods that we want, all the snacks we want. We buy the cars that we want. We have the house we want, the way we want it painted, the way we want it decorated. Everything is about us. But when is that money going to be good enough to let the greatness of that kid come out? I don't think that you've seen your kid yet. I think there's more depths to your kid and the potential that you'll be able to see in the relationship the more you try to work on this relationship with the possibility of money, time, conversation, and letting go of the reins a little bit. I know it's hard to think about, but your kids are going to be the rein holders in the future. So what does that look like? Do your parents still call you every week and tell you what to do, what to wear, what to dress, how to do it, how to talk, how to drive? There's time for us to do these things. But really, the end goal of us raising our kids is so that they can do it themselves. Thank you so much for listening. I think you're a great parent. Until next time.